Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Clark Everett. I'm the Director of Conference Education at the National Apartment Association, and I would like to welcome you to today's sneak peek webinar, Growing Your Own, Lessons in Organic Talent Development, which will be presented in its entirety later this year at the 2017 NAA Education Conference and Exposition. We have a great webinar laid out for you today. I just wanted to let you know in advance that we won't be taking questions, so please don't bother to use the question or the chat boxes. We will be available to ask any number of questions you have when we convene in June at the conference. For the first time, the 2017 NAA Education Conference and Exposition will be held in Atlanta, June 21st through the 24th. We're certain that Atlanta's unique energy and Southern charm will infuse every aspect of the event, spurring networking and learning opportunities and making our gathering more worthwhile than ever before. We expect about 10,000 people to join us. I always think of the education conference as the meeting of the tribe. It's where we all come together and feel the energy of the industry. You'll have plenty of opportunity to gain inspiration and motivation from 3 general sessions featuring top keynote speakers like Alec Baldwin and Robin Roberts. And then we have 60 breakout education sessions for you. This is one of those. You also have an opportunity to discover the latest products and services in the NAA Exposition. We expect more than 450 suppliers this year. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to you our esteemed panel of experts for today's event. Virginia Love joined Wharton in 2007 and is currently served as Vice President, Leasing and Marketing for the multifamily portfolio. Past positions have included working at companies such as Trammell Crow, ING Clarion, Watermark Companies, and Summit Properties. Virginia Means has more than 2 decades of senior human capital leadership and consulting experience. He aligns people solutions with business strategies by elevating, designing, and implementing optimal human resource partnerships and service delivery models. Virginia Means was not able to join us for the webinar today. She had an emergency come up. She may dial in, and if she does, we'll include her. But you can be sure that she'll join us in June at the conference. And next in our lineup of stellar girl power, we have Jennifer Stachokas. She began her career in the multifamily industry over 17 years ago. She served in numerous capacities at 2 of the nation's largest property management firms, focusing on new construction marketing, digital marketing strategies, employment development, and corporate communication. And last, but not least, is the inimitable Deborah Phillips. She's president of the Quadrillion, a real estate advisory firm. She has more than 27 years of experience developing world-class leadership programs. Debbie is president of the Georgia Apartment Education Foundation. She has been the lead instructor for RPM programs at UGA and Georgia Tech. Deb also serves on numerous advisory boards focusing on workforce development. And now I'll turn the floor over to Debbie. We can begin to experience the southern charm of Atlanta when you hear Debbie's accent. Hi, Debbie.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for being on the webinar today. We're all excited about it. And I wanted to just kind of talk about our learning objectives. Clark, are you putting up our first slide?
Yes, I am, and I'm going to pass the controls to you, so you will have the power.
Oh, how fun. Okay, well, while we're getting the slides up on the screen, I think it's really important today that we just kind of tee up our discussion for what's to come in June. And our learning objectives that we have today, we really want to talk about what is our blueprint for sourcing high potential talent. We also want to look at some insights into how does this talent drive our performance metrics. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is allowing the opportunity for us all to dialogue around how do we source this high potential talent But as Virginia Means said on our practice call earlier today, it's not just about a career ladder. It's not just about a lattice, but a lily pad, and how people are jumping from one job position to another. So that's, I'm just kind of giving you a little tickle for what's to come in June. But I'd like for us to talk about, as in the words of Simon Sinek, Clark, I'm not seeing the slide, so I'm going to continue to talk.
Okay.
What I'd like to say right now is Simon Sinek, in that great book, and if you know anything about me, you will say Debbie is good for a book for sure. And what I wanted to talk about just briefly is Simon Sinek in that great book says start with why. And one of the most important things that we need to remember is every one of us wouldn't have taken the time out of our very busy schedule today to talk about talent if we weren't experiencing a shortage or we weren't worried about where our future talent was going to come from. So 39% of all executives are reporting a shortage in sourcing our talent, but also we're seeing a reduced tenure among our jobs and increased skills gap. 60% of all jobs between now and 2020 are going to require some sort of retraining. So I'd like for us just to very quickly, and Clark, if you're driving the slides, I want us to put up our learning objectives, but I also want us to talk about just real quick. Here we go. Now, we're having a little technical difficulty, but what I wanted to talk about real quick as we relate to skills gap is how are we training our talent, but also how are these individuals contributing to the business goals. If we can go to the next slide, I'll cover that very quickly before I give it to Jennifer and to Virginia. In what's our why, we've just talked about the shortage of sourcing talent, but also reduced job tenure, increase in skills gap, and lagging employee engagement. And one thing that I want to remind you to make plans to come to our seminar or our session in June is we will be talking about the 12 drivers of employee engagement. So if you're taking notes for today's webinar, I want you to write down 3 categories. That's the engaged, the enrolled, and the disengaged. Only about 20% of our employees are engaged. And so when you come to our session, we'll talk about what drives engagement. But without any further ado, I want to talk about performance metrics just for a second. When I was doing my PhD dissertation, I looked at the relationship between employee engagement and performance on these properties. And one thing, if you're taking notes, which I hope you are, I want you to write down 3 critical factors. Clark, take us to the next slide. The 3 critical factors that I looked at in my PhD dissertation, and I'm going to wear the hat for the academic today, is there's 3 critical variables: satisfaction, renewals, and referrals. Satisfaction is, are our residents satisfied? And when they are satisfied, like Bill Marriott said, when you take care of your employees, the employees take care of the guests. So when you have happy and engaged employees, you have happy and engaged residents. So this engagement drives renewals. And even if they can't renew, they will certainly refer residents. So the performance metrics that I really want you to take away today is satisfaction, renewals, and referrals. So Jennifer and Virginia are really going to give you some ideas and some resources, and they're going to talk about what I call kind of the top 10 things for sourcing high potential talent. And we want to make sure, we always talk about who's in the ready chair, who's ready to take that next step and talk about that next level leadership. So without any further ado, I want us to talk about growing organically rich talent. take us real quick to the next slide, and then I'll turn it over. When we're talking about organically rich talent, we're talking about resident satisfaction, employee tenure, and organizational performance. And with that being said, we're going to look at some ideas from both Jennifer and Virginia. So we're going to take it from the classroom, the academic research, out into the field. Clark, let's look at 3 things on the blueprint for sourcing high potentials. We covered that, and the next slide for the blueprint is looking at parallel industries like hospitality, retail, food service. Targeted hiring focused on career pathing. Where does someone go? Up is not the only way. And taking a real intensive look at your existing talent pool, because we all know that we don't need to duplicate something that we've already got unless they're what I call high potential. So Jennifer is going to take us, and she's going to look at 5 tactics for sourcing high potentials, and then Virginia is going to take us to another 5. So with that being said, I'm going to toss the microphone to Jennifer. Jennifer, welcome.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Debbie. And I think it's a great segue into my session is really talking about auditing your talent pool. So if Marcus could go ahead and proceed to the next slide. Virginia and I have the good fortune of sharing a top 10 list, and who doesn't love a top 10, right? So I'm going to talk about the first 5. The first is diversity, and so that really leads into auditing your talent pool. So when I think about diversity in a team, I'm not just talking about gender, talking about race, religion. I'm really talking about skill sets. So it's so important to hire somebody like people that are not like you. And so oftentimes I find at properties, managers tend to hire people that are just like them. They have the same passions, and maybe they have the same strengths as that manager. And it's really important to step back and say, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? And I really want to hire a team based on the weaknesses that I have. So again, you really have to find out what you're lacking and you hire for that. And really this mentality creates an extremely well-rounded team that has a diverse skill set, and it allows for peers to cross-train each other. So they get to learn from each other, and the supervisor-employee roles get to learn from each other as well because they're really complementing that skill set. Now let's move on to feedback. So I have, in the past few years, hired about 25 to 30 team members. I took on a new position about 2.5 years ago, and I was able to create a team. And so a lot of the employees that I have hired happen to be millennials, and something that really resonates with them is feedback. And what I mean by feedback is in-the-moment feedback. So if something is taking place, really trying to address that immediately instead of letting it wait for a performance review. I don't know about you guys, but that's one of my pet peeves is people that wait until a performance review to talk about deficiencies, about something that's going on. So it's important that in the moment we're sharing feedback instead of waiting for that time. It really shows team members that you're truly invested in them, and then they can adjust course accordingly by acknowledging their strengths and weaknesses. And then we're able to pair people up with people that have a complementary talent to theirs. And then we also, in terms of talent, it's so important to be proactive. So you have to always be looking for talent. One day when you think you have your team completely full, unfortunately something happens. You promote somebody, you add an additional team member to your team, or maybe somebody moves on for another great opportunity. So we need to make sure that we're constantly sourcing talent either internally or externally. So internally, really finding those peak performers and find out where their passion lies. And then externally, always keeping a database of people that may be a good fit for your organization. So it's really important to be disciplined with being proactive to source talent, because that long-term investment in people truly pays off. And unfortunately, urgent tasks always seem to get in the way. So if we're constantly being dedicated to looking for new talent, we won't let those urgencies get in the way of finding that great team. The first thing I wanted to talk about is really walking the talk. It's really important to be transparent about your own need to learn and develop your own skills. It really has to be speed of the leader. So if you take learning and growing yourself very seriously, the people that work with and for you are also going to take it very seriously. So it's important to be a role model and know that people that work for you or your peers at your company and in the industry are always watching your actions. So you need to make sure that what you're saying is really in line with the actions that you're putting forth. And then the fifth thing I wanted to talk about is to encourage constant learning. So it's so important to have conversations with team members to ascertain what they really want to accomplish and where they feel that they have gaps in that learning. So many times I think conversations are focused around goals instead of having true conversations on what people really want to accomplish in their careers and how they feel like these gaps that they have could be mitigated by additional training or mentorship. So make sure to leverage problems as opportunities on the job learning with team members, as it gives them freedom to learn from their mistakes. So let them know that they can make mistakes, you'll use it as a training tool, and you'll move forward from there. And now let's send it over to Virginia to bring us home for 6 through 10.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. There's really nobody else I'd rather share a top 10 list with than Jennifer, so this is so much fun. So number 6 for me is to speak to people's potential. I think one thing that we all do as leaders is we have a tendency to look and speak to people at where they are and not where they want to be. So if you know the team goals and the career goals of everyone that's around you, you're able to speak to them in a way that kind of lifts them up and sort of sees, kind of where they want to go within the company. Maybe they just need to be elevated, and speaking to their potential is going to give them that mental focus to be able to say, you know what, they're talking about things that are in front of me, not where I am now, but where I can go, and that's going to pay off big time. Number 7 was train in the moment. I know it is so easy to just say, let me fix this issue right now. Someone comes to you and you just want to say, yeah, I just really don't have time right now to explain to you why this is doing this or this integration isn't working. But you know what? Having that moment where you can sit down and say, let me explain to you. Let me explain the why, like Dr. Debbie said. Let's take a look at what's going on and how you fix everything and the bigger picture. That I think we all think that training has to take place in a classroom or on a webinar, but it doesn't. It's in the everyday activities that you're doing with your team, especially when you're out on site. I'm always keeping an ear open to how people are talking and what they're saying to prospects or how they're acting on the phone, and just not an opportunity to go over there and say anything negative. A lot of times it's to praise them. That's also training in the moment. Those real live situations in real time are massive learning opportunities. My number 8 for me is resist the absolutes. This is my pet peeve. Always, never, those type of words. They're not quantifiable words, and they don't use anything other than your matter of opinion. So when I hear people say things like, oh, it's never going to work, and we've always done it this way, there's no gray area there, and it really is unmotivating to people around you. And you never know who is listening to you, whether it's within your own company or you're out in a networking opportunity and somebody that's qualified, maybe somebody you'd like to hire, is there and they hear, oh, well, we don't ever do it that way. That might really turn them off. So it's just a limited word. It leaves 2 words. It doesn't leave any gray areas when you speak in absolutes. And it really does stifle people's growth and innovation. So watch that. I find it, I'll do it myself. So I really try to watch using those absolutes. Again, my big pet peeve. Number 9 for me, and Jennifer spoke to this, but mine was continually audit that talent pool, not just your pool, but the pools around you. I say that because I work in a company to where there's all these other departments, and a lot of times my next good associate for the marketing team could come from another department within Waterton. And it has happened that way, that maybe somebody is they have aspirations and goals that aren't going to be achievable where they are within your company, and they may have an interest. I think it's really important that we all as leaders make sure that people within our organization know that there are opportunities in-house. You really hate to lose somebody that's a good associate to go outside your company and join someone else for a great opportunity when you may have that opportunity in-house. So, I like to talk about talent with others in my organization and continually look at that talent pool, because you never know when the right person might just be in the wrong department. They might be ready for a move or have an interest that you'll be able to benefit from. And then my last one, and this is so old-fashioned, number 10, is that thank you never goes out of style. When I tell you, it really doesn't. I mean, is there anything better than being appreciated? I don't think so. I know that Jennifer and I both are big believers in thank you notes, and Dr. Debbie is as well. Nothing's better than sending somebody a thank you, a handwritten thank you, or receiving one. But that sincere thank you is one of the best investments that you will make. Over and over, time after time when I interview people and I say, what motivates you? How do you know, what is it going to make you want to get out and work even harder every day? They're like, I love it when somebody tells me thank you and that they appreciate everything that I did. It's not always like, money or something material or big vacations. And I mean, a lot of times it's just hearing those two words that somebody that's thanking you for everything that you've done and all of your hard work is going to go a long way. And again, everybody is listening to everything that you say around them. So every time you're looking for somebody new within your organization, or you're trying to promote somebody within your team, or looking for somebody outside in a network situation, they're going to remember that you are very appreciative when people work really hard. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Debbie.
Well, I think all of us on this webinar, myself included, I think everybody needs to think about what was their favorite nugget that they heard. But I want you to think about this. Most people listen to channel WIFM, What's in It for Me? And every one of you on this webinar is thinking about, how can I use this? And if you want to know what's in it for you, come to our session in June. It's Thursday, June 22nd. We're going to start early, 8:45 to 9:45. But what I want you to understand is the value proposition that you're going to get in our session is everybody's been to oh, here we go again seminar. This is not going to be the case. You're going to leave with absolute techniques that you can take to your company, whether it be a smaller owner-manager company, whether it be a supplier. All of us have the same needs. We need to increase market share, and the only way we can do that is by having high potential talent that's engaged and passionate about what they do. And I know you know that Jennifer, Virginia, myself, and our other Virginia, we're passionate about helping you. And Clark, you're going to give us some other ideas for some more upcoming webinars, so share those.
All right, thank you, Debbie. I really appreciate today how Debbie gave the academic view, which is sort of like the overlying dynamics of talent development, and then we were able to hear from both Jennifer and Virginia to understand very tangible ways of implementing improvements on the ground. So that's a great combination for me. As an educator, I always look for sort of both levels, and really happy to hear what you all had to share this afternoon. Let's see. Debbie, can you tell us maybe just a little bit about some of the other things that will be covered?
One thing that we're definitely going to go into is we're going to go into a checklist for sourcing high potentials, because we cannot continue to look in our own garden if we're talking about growing. We definitely need to understand how to get rid of the weeds, or I say, just grow more high potentials. So if we're going to grow more high potentials, we've got to look into other industries that have transferable skills. So that's one of the big takeaways that we're going to get. The other thing is I had the opportunity to really do some in-depth research about employee engagement, not just employee engagement, but specifically what drives employee engagement for the multifamily industry. So I'm going to be giving some statistically significant drivers for that. And then the other thing that we're going to look at, and Virginia Means was not able to be on the call today, but she was the chairman of the board for the Society of Human Resource Management. So she's going to bring a lot of things outside of our industry. So you're not going to get the same old list of things. You're absolutely going to get cutting edge research. And I always say, don't take anything but evidence to the bank. So we're going to be giving a lot of evidence-based examples. So Clark, that's what we've got in store for our great session.
That sounds really juicy. I'm kind of excited. I hope that I'll have time to drop in and hear some of the further developed ideas. Virginia, can you tell us one more time when you guys are presenting at the conference?
Oh, sure. We're a human resource track. It's like a learning area track within NAA. It's on Thursday, June the 22nd. Like Debbie said, we start early at 8:45. It's an hour-long session, and Debbie and I, being from Atlanta, would like to invite all y'alls, as we say, that's plural y'alls, to the session in Atlanta, and just cannot wait to see everybody at MAA. We know it is going to be just fantastic.
Oh, it's not that early. You know, the party's not until Thursday night, and we always
That's
have
true.
coffee. So there will be some Java to make to get things rolling, and certainly a great step off with a team like y'all.
Y'all.
Good job. Y'all.
I can't really say it authentically. I'm a Northerner. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I'm doing my best.
We'll get you there. We'll get you there by
Okay.
June. Don't worry.
I'm a quick learner. I wanted to just talk to all of our attendees today about some upcoming webinars. This webinar is the second in a series of 6 that will sort of ramp us up as we make our way to the conference. In April, Kate Good is going to talk about fast fixes for slow markets. It's current thinking lately that the market is going to get a little bit more challenging. We've had such a constant growth rate for so long. Eventually, that's going to top out some. So we're starting to think about some ways to be more proactive about that change in the market. For independent rental owners, those are folks who sort of run smaller units or smaller companies more organically. We're going to have a webinar in early May that will talk about ways to maximize your income. And then we've also been making big efforts to include maintenance topics sort of at all different levels, because maintenance plays such a huge role in operations in our industry. These guys, Terry Danner, Matthew Kelly, Chase Harrington, and Raymond Van Beveren will be talking in late May about how to automate and your operations so that they're more efficient. And then also, just the week before the conference begins, I'll be doing a webinar that's a planning webinar. Really what I like to try and do is sort of lay out the value proposition, like pick out the big pieces of the conference, and then also highlight some of the events that you wouldn't want to miss. I'll help you develop a strategy for attending the conference and maximize your experience there. Let's see. So I want to just, again, thank our awesome panelists, Dr. Debbie Phillips, Virginia Love, and Jennifer Stachokas. You guys did a great job today, and I'm excited to hear what else you have to offer as we develop the conversation. This sneak peek represents just one of 60 breakout sessions that will take place at the conference in June. You can be, if you haven't registered yet and you would like to, you can use the link in the bottom of the slide. I also want to tell everybody that this webinar has been recorded and it'll be posted to the event website. You'll receive a follow-up email shortly after the webinar, possibly maybe tomorrow or most likely on Monday, that will give you a link back to the recording so that you can have all of the details available to you. And with that, I will just say we're looking forward to seeing everybody in Atlanta. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye. Have a
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.